Okay, so we're back again with another video concerning our ruler and our measuring. Today we're going to be going over scales, and we're going to be using a regular ruler because you do need to learn how to use a regular ruler besides this type of ruler here, which is a scale ruler. Scale ruler is much different from a regular ruler. In the event that you do not have a regular ruler, or no, let me state that again. In the event that you do not have a scale ruler, architectural scale ruler, which structural engineers use, you need to learn how to read off of a regular ruler. So, with that being said, we have put up on our board here on how to read on a ruler. So let me erase that. Okay. Because there's a different type of ruler that I'm going to draw to scale as a scale ruler. So you can kind of get the idea. But first of all, what I want to do, my name is Derek Stills again, here to teach you how to measure with using a measuring tape or a measuring ruler. And this could be from a child 5 years on up, a child 8 years on up, a child 10 years up, depending on the ability of the child's learning with the basic maths. You know, at today's time, you should be teaching your child, because a child should be able to read at the age of 5. At the age of 3, you could set a child in front of you and give them equations dealing with 1 + 1, 2 + 2, before they go into kindergarten. As parents, it's our responsibility to try to get our kids ahead so that they won't struggle when they get to school. You know, it also keeps your brain functioning as a parent as well. Being the age that I am, you know, hey, after I got to a certain age and raising kids, I almost had to go back to school all over again through them, because you start forgetting some of the basic principles that you learn, especially when it comes to grammar and language and different things like that. Come to writing, when it comes to talking in complete sentences, not saying I ain't instead of saying I can't, you know, different things like that. So here I'm getting you prepared, and I want you to be well versed at knowing how to read a scale on just a regular ruler. What is a scale? A scale is a 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. This is the scale that we're going over. 1/4 of an inch. What is a 1/4 of an inch? This is a 1/4 of an inch. So, this is going to be a cheat sheet. This is a 1/4 of an inch. 1/4. 1/4. Right here. 1/2. Right here. 3/4. Right here. And then you have your 7/8. Then you have your 5/8. Then you have your 3/8. I'm a perfectionist, so I want to make sure that you be able to see this right. I am writing backwards these numbers. Last video I called numbers letters, so excuse me for that correction to be taken. 1/8 right there. Okay? And everything, again, at the bottom is a 1/16. All the little ones are 1/16 of an inch, as we went in my previous videos. And I am clarifying that for you so that way it's a refresher. Get rid of that right there. I want you to be able to identify. You pretty much know that I'm putting all, as your instructor, 1/4. 1/4. I hope you can see that. That's 1/4. Okay, so we set up like we did the last time. Okay, so our setup today is dealing with identifying the footage. We're going to deal with just the feet, but I do have here a couple. Let me see. I have this one here that goes into the 1/8. Okay, now mind you, 1/4 and 1/8 is two different. 1/8 is before you get to 1/4. So understand where the 1/8 plays a part in knowing inches. 1/8 of an inch is in a bigger inch bracket now because the scale has been reduced. How's the scale has been reduced? The scale has been reduced because it's no longer 1 inch. 1 inch is 1 inch. We're taking quarters of an inch into footage, feet. 1/4 equals 12 inches. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 inches is a foot. 12, okay? So by 12 inches being a foot, 1/4 of an inch is a foot. So if I take this 1/4, that's going to dominate off the scale because now we're going into how to read the blueprint. This is the beginning courses of how you're going to read when I show you blueprints. I got a lot of plans and I'm going to take you how I break down blueprints, what I see, what you need to be looking for as a carpenter. I will also show you electrical, heating and air conditioning, and plumbing plans. When you start seeing that, your mind expands so big, you won't get a headache. But there have been many men in this field that have had strokes. Not mean to scare you, but when it comes to building, pressure is upon the builder, the foreman for the company he works for. There's pressure. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. One framing subdivision I framed in California, we framed like, I believe it was 10 houses. The framing came up to, I believe, like $66,000. When it all came down, the total mass, including the lumber, was like 100,000. So you're dealing with, you know, a 60-40 regimen, like 60% labor, 40% materials. I'm talking about in framing. But things have changed because the economy has went haywire. Things have gone so far into the cosmos dealing here in the United States. Because we get a lot of our lumber from Canada. A lot of our stuff comes from Georgia, within the country. You know, we talked about big mills. Washington State, big mills where pine is being milled down. Douglas fir, which is a framing material that's used in California. There's no Douglas fir used in the South. It's pine, and it's a structural pine, you know. So getting into different types of lumber is right now, we're not at that stage. Don't worry about that. But when it comes to estimating for your general area, you could always find out your lumber. Framing lumber is going to always be framing lumber. Okay, whether it's pine, Douglas fir, you will be able to identify the framing lumber once you start making the calls and asking the prices of 2x4. And 2x4 is just 2x4. There's no 2x4. You have several 2x4s though. You got hem fir. Hem fir in California is a very dry 2x4. It's dried wood. It's been all the moisture content's been taken out of it, and it's not for structural. It doesn't have a factor for weight. This is stuff that you can use that's real light, that can hold drywall, that you would do for your drop ceilings, for anything that you have where you have air conditioners running through hallways, such as you see right here. This bulkhead here in this hallway is considered where I have an air conditioning unit here. So the ducting is running through here, and it's running throughout this whole entire apartment that I am in. And I've built apartment complexes. So let's go back to here. I am explaining a lot of different things. So I'm giving off a lot of different information, even though I'm talking about scales. Listen to me very closely when I start explaining other things about the trade, because it all fits into what you're going to be learning. If you can hear it in the beginning, it's going to come back up later on when we reach that phase. I'm prepping and teaching at the same time what I'm teaching here, but I'm also prepping you and preparing you for what you're going to be learning for the future in this course that you're learning from Derek Seals. Okay, so symbol for the feet, symbol for the inches. Talked about the tape. This time we're not using this tape as a regular tape measure. We're using only this tape basically in the function of breaking 1/4 of an inch down in feet. Anything under 1/4 of an inch, 3/16, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 is going to be broken down as this. 1/16 is going to be 3 inches. 1/8 of an inch, it's going to be 6 inches. And 1/4 of an inch is going to be the foot. 3, 6, 12. 3, 6, 12. 3, 6, 12. And on the scale, it's not going to look like this. It's going to be cramped up with a lot of little lines before you even get to the 1 foot, which is the 1/4 of an inch. A lot of little lines. And you got to take those little lines, because in between those little lines, before you get to the 6 inch or the 3 inch, you're going to have another line before the 3 inch. You're going to have another line before the 6 inch, which is after the 3 inch, which could tell you that's 4 inches or 5 inches or 2 inches, so that you can be more accurate. But you got to understand how it reads. It's not the same. And I'm not trying to confuse you with just a measuring ruler here. I am trying to hype your awareness up for when you don't have this scale. Many a times I didn't have a scale on the job. Many a times. I promise you, I didn't have the scale on the job. I had used my measuring tape. I took the regular measuring tape and I used this as a scale. But since I knew how the scale system worked, I knew how to break down a 1/4 of an inch within the scale. So that means if I took my scale and I put it on the blueprints, and I want to go into many feet, because a garage on a blueprint or a room on a blueprint is condensed to a small drawing scale. When you see my model that I'm framing and I'm going to be sharing with you, you're going to understand how scales condense long distance measurements. 40 feet could be like that long, because it's broken down in the scale. 50 feet, that long. 60 feet, depending on the scale, the size that you're using. Whether it's 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, 3/32 of an inch, 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. Those scales that's being read, I can read you right here. And I want you to all pay attention, because it's very important that you know how the scale operates, because all these little lines right here that you see, that's the beginning point before you even get to the footage. Before you even get to 1 foot or 10 feet or 20 feet. And it's back here as well. It reverses itself going back this way. It goes this way at the top, and at the top it also goes this way. So you're going to see lines that's shorter and lines that's longer. Longer lines will dictate to you where you're reading from what side. Shorter lines on the scale is going to tell you which direction you're reading. And the numbers are going to vary, because you have 2 different types of numbers here on the scale. You're going to have a bottom number. You're going to have a smaller number. You're going to have another number at the top of the scale for that line that's coming across this way. But the longer number may be coming this way. It may say 10. That represents 10 feet. It may say 20 this way, which is the first number you'll see starting off on the scale. That means 20 feet. Quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Regular scale rule, 3/16 of an inch, 3/32 of an inch. We're dealing with the quarter of an inch. Quarter of an inch starts this way. The first mark you see on the quarter of an inch, you have all these little lines. You have all these little lines in the beginning. And I'm going to put that up for you so you can see. I'm going to actually draw it for you so you can actually see how you're going to break down before you get to the quarter of an inch to be a foot. So this quarter of an inch, that represents 1 foot. All the marks ahead of it, they are numbers as well. So, like I said, this 1/16 is going to represent, now I'm only putting this here and I'm going to erase it, 3 inches. Put the little double mark, 3 inches. The mark here is the 1/8 of an inch. He represents 6 inches. This mark here, the 3/16, is going to represent 9 inches. 3, 6, 9. 3, 6, 9. And then your quarter of an inch is going to be equivalent to 1 foot. So breaking down 3 here, the first 16. 6 here, which 6 inches is half of 12. But within the quarter of an inch, it's actually 1/8 of an inch. So I don't want you to get confused, because now we're dealing with a scale. We're not dealing with a regular measuring tape or a ruler. And those craftsmen that are out there that know how to read the plans, they get taught this because it separates them from the average person on the job site. To read a scale, not everybody knows how to read the scale, because they originally were for the architects, originally for the draftsmen that draw plans. The carpenter that have been taught by a master carpenter will get introduced to scale. So since I'm a master carpenter, I'm introducing you to the scale. I cannot leave you blinded and send you on your way and teach you how to read a measuring tape, and then all of a sudden somebody talks to you about a scale to want to test your knowledge, and then they'd be like, well, who taught him? When you break out a scale and then you on the job, or you break out your measuring tape, oh, well, let's read these plans, man. Well, man, a lot of heat and air conditioning guys don't follow scales, plumbers, a lot, but they know how to read them when they're out there, because those plumbers, electricians that are out there, they have their own plan within the plan. Blueprints is like a Bible that is comprised of a lot of gospels, if I can put it to you that way. I'm not talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, all right, the King James. What I'm talking about is plumbing, electrical, heating, air conditioning. I'm talking about that is gospel for them. For me as a carpenter, as the main builder, I have to know the operation on how they are working within my walls. I create the foundation. I create the framing that they attach their members to or go through. Without the carpenter, they have nothing. They have to have something either existing or they have to have something new put up. You can't run plumbing through a wall that's not there. It'll just be in the air. And where's it going? Why are you having a plumbing vent going 15 feet up in the air? And what is it servicing? There's no floor up there. I have to put the floor. I have to frame the walls. I need to know the location on where the plumbing drains are. As a carpenter, I will teach you. When you know where your toilets are, you know where most of your plumbing fixtures are, like your tubs, your toilets. These areas are very important to measuring. Scales. If the measurement is not on the plans, scale it. Get into it. Find it and mark it on the plans. As a carpenter, as a floor joister, ceiling joister, it's my duty and my job to make it easy for them for production. When they can fly through my project and don't have to cut my wood up, we call plumbers butchers. And no offense, okay, y'all. But they will chop our framing up and then we have to go back and replace it. Because they done chopped it up because it's in their way, because they're not structurally knowing how framing goes. They're plumbers. They need a cavity. They need a space to go through. If a stud is in the way, if a joist is in the way, I got a joist coming right here. But I got a toilet and I have my flange and this joist is in the way. Either you're going to head out the joist, which heading out is cutting the joist, and then you got some framing you have to do just to head out a little. Why not just move it over 3 or 4 inches one way or 3 or 4 inches the other way? Yeah, and just give him a bay. A bay is an opening between one floor joist and another floor joist. He can work right in between the bay. So why cut a joist that's in his way when I can predetermine where his toilet's going to set or where his drain pipe for his tub and shower is going to be? Because the drain for the tub and the shower has its own trap. That trap needs some space. You cannot have a floor joist in the way of a trap or a main drain for a toilet. It's not going to work for him. He needs space. He needs room. And as a carpenter, you have to work with him. Carpenters that just frame and don't care about nobody else are not well skilled. I'm not going to say they're bad, because our standard is go every 16 inches, boom, put it right there. But you're not looking out for the next guy. That's the plumber. Because guess what he's going to do? He's going to come right back to the carpenter or the foreman and say, hey, you know those guys ran that ceiling joist or they ran that floor joist right where my drain for my toilet goes or my water closet. 2 different types of terminology here. I'm going to teach you the terminology that's going to be identifiable in framing. So that way you can talk plumbing lingo. You can talk electrical lingo. Hey, man, I know you got your switches and your plugs. I know you got your plugs 12 inches up off the ground. You got your switches at least at 48 and below. You know, he has to have room. And he needs his wires to run through the wall, his Romex or his Flex. You have to know these things as a master carpenter because you're building. And heating and air requires sometimes an 18-inch bay, because he has a big old duct that's going to service through one side and the other side of the house or the building. And it's a big duct. He can't have a little 16-inch bay because that duct is so expansive, is that airflow has to flow through that ducting system without any force or anything or pushing up against it, not creating the flow that is required to produce. As a master, you need to know these things. You get out ahead. Lay your joists out away from your toilets. Lay your joists out and give the plumber room when it comes to your traps and your drains for your showers, for your tubs. Real talk. This is factual. And when they come to your project, I did a whole subdivision. I was taught by a master, Charles McDowell, call him Charlie Crow. Taught by a master. And when it came to layout, and we're going to get into layout for the carpenter, it's very important you know how to lay out. It is just not no take 16 inches and go. No. If you're doing that on your projects, you need to be looking and listening to me. Stop. Just stop, because I'm going to make it so much easier for you. If you've been taught by somebody that's been telling you studs go every 16 inches, stop. That is the practice of stud spacing. But what if studs come into intersecting walls, corners? Studding is different in these areas. There's some people that like their studs to line up with their ceiling joists and then the rafters offset. Or they want the rafter to line up on top of the stud and the ceiling joist off to the side. Why? Because they like pretty work. They look weight control. These members from the roof down go to the foundation, and it's all about weight load. You have live load and you have dead load. Live load is us walking around. Hey, because we're live. Hey. Dead load. furniture. You like that? Okay, we'll get back over here. Thank you. Furniture. It doesn't move. See, every time I move, then what happens is I have to come back and adjust, because if I go too low, then it'll stop tracking me. I don't have anybody here but me. So going back to pay attention. Pay attention, class. Okay, let's pay attention. Okay, I like to say that because you want a teacher, you heard that when you was in school. Pay attention. Pay attention. So here we go. 3 inches, the first 16. 6 inches is the first 1/8 of an inch. 3/16 is going to be 9 inches. Okay, that's how you break down before you get to that quarter of 12 inches to be a foot. So we have a little exercise here. This little exercise is comprised of what we did on my last video. If you didn't catch my last video, you need to go back to that one. You can subscribe. But viewing is perfectly healthy for you. View me as many times you need. Don't pay attention to me. Pay attention to what's on the board. What I'm saying, you can still hear my voice. Yes, I'm in the picture. I don't have to be. I could drop in. The thing tracking me. Or I can drop out. You know, don't drop out of school. No, come to class. This is what's going to help you feed your family. Okay. These lines represent, with the mark here, like I showed, you see that on the blueprint. That tells you the point of the beginning, and it stops at the point. These are stopping marks. So you'll know, okay, this measurement goes from here to there. I'm going to draw a room, show you the center on how windows and doors are figured on a blueprint. You're going to have measurements, lines like this. So I'm prepping you so you can watch the future videos. I'm prepping you. So be very familiar with what I have going on, because it's totally legit. I'm telling you, it's off the chain. You're not going to be lost. Matter of fact, you get this dialed in, you're going to be a sharp guy. When that superintendent talks to you, even if he doesn't have a carpenter experience, he's going to rely on you because you know what you're talking about. If you can get him past this point, oh, by all means, she's going to be like, that guy knows his measurements. Your name going to get called up. Before you know it, hey, Charles, Alejandro, Anthony, David, Jeremy, Jerry, if that's your name, it's going to be called, because you're going to be a person on the job that they can depend on when it comes to measuring. This is the key. Let me tell you right now, you mess this up, man, get up off my job, bro. Check in the mail. Bye. You're fired. On The Apprentice, Donald Sharp said, you're fired. Yes, I've seen people get fired on construction jobs on site. Walk around a construction job when it comes towards the end and there's no more lumber being ordered because of this stage right here. Carpenters have to go look in piles of wood to find scrap. Scrap lumber is considered to be anything under 2 feet. You better not throw a 3-foot piece of 2x4, 2x6, 2x8 away. You get fired off that job. You throwing it in a trash pile? Underfoot, yeah, it's trash. Okay, take all that away, it's gonna be dumped. But if it's 3, 4, 5, 6 feet, and you get seen throwing that away, that's money. You're gonna need it for blocking. You're gonna need it for backing, or for drops. You're gonna probably need it also for what they call when you use it for trusses that float. You need small blocks, 24-inch blocks, from truss to truss, where you can float your backing or your dead wood. Certain dead wood and chases. Chases don't need dead wood because it's an open frame area for an air duct to go through. Okay, but anything like closets where it's drywall, where the wall is 2'6" for a closet coming out, it needs dead wood. It needs backing for drywall to nail to or to screw to. We're going to get into all these different things. Pay attention. So, let's go with, take this away. We'll come back to this. And the reason why I say we come back to it, because there is a couple places, there's a spot on here where you're going to see that. You're going to see 1/8 of an inch being used. And we're going to number this. Okay, I mean, I can put numbers or I can put letters. I'm going to do the letters. Like A. That's A. We have B. So I'm going to do B right here to represent this one here. We have C. I just don't like my marks to be disconnected. You know, when something disconnected, you have a tendency to not really know what's going on there. I got A, B, I need C. This is C. I need D. I need E. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so 1/4 inch equals 1 foot on the scale. 1 foot. Feet, inches. Right now we have footage that we're going to be using. You use just as 2 various terminology. You can use feet or foot. Foot or feet. You know. T for 2, 2 for T. Okay. So A. Let's deal with A right now, okay? Pay attention. Pay attention, okay? Coming from the hook or the butt, okay? And on a scale, when you're going putting that on the scale, you got to line that scale up at the end where the wall is. Scales are used at wall locations like a tape measure, but it's a piece of paper, a drafting paper that's the architect has used or the draftsman has used. So, we're past the 3 inches, all right? That's 3/4. Same as this. It's just at the bottom. Whatever's at the bottom here, it is the same at the top here. Remember that. Don't let the bottom and the top confuse you. They're the same. The markings are totally the same. But as you can see here, for A, letter A, we have how many feet from past 3 inches? And that's just 3 inches. But we're using 3 as an identifying marker. Let's count how many feet are we here. Because see, clearly it says 3 3/4 inch, right? Not on the scale. Watch this. 1 foot, first 1/4 inch. 2 foot, that's the 1/2 inch. That's 2 feet. 3/4 is 3 feet. Get to the 1, 4 foot. For every 1 inch, it's going to be 4 feet. So how many do we have? For every 1 inch, we have 4 feet that we're covering to this 1 inch marker here. That's just 1 inch on a ruler or scale. I'm using this ruler because I'm going to teach you how the scale looks. And I've showed you the scale ruler, and what it looks like is triangular with over 12 different measurements on footage. 4 feet, 8 feet, 12 feet. Now, 3 represents 12. Why? Because 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Why are we saying 3 times 4? Because there's 4 feet in 1 inch. And we have 3 inches. 4 times 3 equals 12 feet. 4 1/4 inches. 4 1/4 inches is equal to 12 a foot. Quarter inch equals 12 feet. 1/4 inch equals a foot. That's in inches. That will be inches or 1 foot. So I corrected it. 1/4 inch equals 12 inches. I'm going to tell you that. 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. There's 12 inches in 1 feet. Okay? You can write that down. There's 12 inches in 1 foot. You can create your own notebook right now. And I suggest you do that. I suggest you draw all this out and you keep a notebook. Don't come to this class because I have no way of coming to your house and checking on you. But don't come in this class and you don't take notes and you just want to hear me. You're not going to learn. This is going to be your library that you're going to be able to go back to at any time. You're going to pull me up on a video at work? Are you serious? No, you use me if you have to at work. But guess what? You're going to have to go through to find out the part you're looking for that I've talked about when you could have it in your notes. Keep notes. I got tons of notes. How do you think I came up with all this stuff? This stuff has been tracking me for 30 to 40 years since I've been in school. Okay? Since I've been in school, I've learned this way. But I created this thing on my own, basically. Kind of formulated some things from back in the day when I learned and comprised it and to share it with you. Because this is how masters came and evolved and their brains started functioning and you started thinking and you used your mind instead of using a calculator or instead of using an AutoCAD or instead of using some modern technology over a computer because it's so simple and you become so lazy to where you're not even wanting to think. The only thing you want to think about is I need to push this button on this computer and let it read it out for me. They got different types of tools. I'm going over here because there's another tool that is used. And you put it up against the wall and it tells you the distance in feet and inches on here. Why did I buy it? Because when it comes to long distance and I'm running around and doing estimating, I got something else I can show you that's old school too, where you carry you rolled a measurer that had wheels on it, and every time you went past a foot, it's marking it. As the wheels rolled, the real wheels took on and implemented right there on a little dial thing that you could see through. And told you how many feet you were. But it only did it like 3 inch, 6 inch, 9 inch, 12 inch. It didn't break down 3/4 of an inch and all that. No. Estimate is always a guesstimate. Okay? 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. 12 inches. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay? I always put a foot there. But I'm just wanting you to know 1 foot. That mark still could be the same. This could be that. This could be this. Both 1 foot. 1 foot. I'm not trying to confuse you. What I'm trying to do is trying to make you be aware. Because there's more than one way to come across and get information. And I want to make sure that you have more than one way of a solution to get to the answer. Okay? We're all about trying to get to the answer. So here we have 12 feet. Now, what do we have when it comes to in between before we get to this other foot? Remember I told you that the 1/8 of an inch is equivalent to 3 inches. The 1/4 of an inch is automatically a foot. The 1/16 is automatically going to be 3 inches. The 1/8 is going to be, and I'm correcting myself, the 1/8 is going to be 6 inches. And the 3/16 is going to be 9 inches. So what do we have here? 3, 6, 9. 3 inch, 6 inch, 9 inch. The 3/4 is the 9 inch. The 1/2 inch is the 6 inch. The 16th, or let me see, no. here, quarter, it's a foot. Let's erase this because we're going to be dealing with the 16th of an inch. This is another foot. How many feet do we have? 12, 13, 14, 15 feet. Why? Because every quarter of an inch, even after this 3, is going to be a foot. This is a quarter, which is that, which is that. This is a half inch, which is this, which is this. This is 3/4 of an inch, which is this, which is this. Okay? Let me scroll. 1/4 of an inch here, 1/4 here, 1/4 here. 1/2 of an inch here, 1/2 of an inch here, 1/2 of an inch here. Those are feet. 1/4 is 1 foot. 1/2 is another foot. 3/4 of an inch is another foot. So we have 3 times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in 1 inch. 4 feet in 1 inch. 1/4 of an inch equals, or let me say 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. So we have 4 quarters. It will equal 12 feet. No, 4 quarters will equal 4 feet. Four quarters equals 4 feet. Put that quarter there, put the inch marker there. But the number 4 quarters. 4 quarters. 4 equals 1/4 of an inch equals 4 feet. It can sound confusing. I don't want you to be confused. I don't. It's the least thing I want you. I just want you to know that within the number system, 2 to 3, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, there's 4 feet within these 2 in between. So let's count our footage again. 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, 11 foot, 12. Remember, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 foot, 13 feet, 14 feet, 15 feet. A is 15 feet. Okay, so when we go to B, we want B is a different measurement taken here in the length. This is the length. B is a different measurement taken. Okay, so B is going to be 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. Remember, I could just automatically just start counting 4, 8. It's like math, okay? To keep me from having to pull out a measuring tape and I'm doing all that, master it to where you don't have to, where you can look at the numbers, the inches, and be like, okay, that's 4 foot, that's 8 foot, that's 12 feet. Okay, so we passed 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot. Foot, another foot. We at 8 feet when we get to 2. Starting from the beginning on where we hooked our tape, we got 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet. Look like my appears that my 1/4 of an inch on my 3/4 has kind of shrunken. And I don't know why it shrunk. But I need to get it back, okay, to be equal with that. I need to get this one where it's just a little longer. Okay. You can identify better with this. Much better you can identify. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's pay attention. Okay, 4 feet. 8 feet. Okay, 9 foot, 10 feet. B is 10 feet. 10 feet. How do I want to put this? B. Let's just put B here. Well, 10 feet. 10 foot. Okay, that's B. B is 10 foot. Okay, let's go to C. Because we're pressing for time here. We're already at 45 minutes. this class. I'm trying to do these 1 hour courses, classes with you, like you in school, okay? And all these videos, you can watch 4 or 5 videos on a Saturday, or and when you come home from work, you go to YouTube, put me on, and sit always with your notepad, because you got to take notes. C, starting from the hook point, we're going to the 3/4 inch, but then before we get to the 4 feet mark. The 4 foot mark is the 1 inch. Always remember that when you're on a regular ruler. Always remember 1 inch is actually 4 feet. You're scaled down to 1/4 inch. Let's count. We have 1 foot, 2 foot at the half mark, 3 feet. C is 3 feet. C is 3 feet. Okay, remember that. C is 3 feet. So now let's go to D. So D is setting you up to where you can actually see that it is actually I'm looking at it right myself. It's actually on a foot mark. So we don't have to worry about it's not on a foot mark. It's on a foot mark. Okay. So at D, we have this point of reference right here. That's 1/4 inch past the 1 foot. Remember, we always told you that 4 feet is within 1 inch. We've already broken that down. Okay. 4 feet within 1 inch with quarters. Only using 1/4 of an inch. Within the 1 inch margin, you're going to have footage. Your footage is going to be counted by 1/4 of an inch equaling 1 foot. 1 foot, 2 foot at the half, 3 foot, 4 feet at 1 inch mark. Then when we go to this next quarter on the other side of the 1 inch mark, 5 feet. 5 feet. That's the mark for footage. That's my mark for footage. Don't get it twisted. The carpenter is trained to know that is a foot marker. Don't put no double mark like for an inch, because it's going to confuse him. He need a board cut at 5 feet. If he's giving you a cut list, put the mark down. This is how it's always been from where I learned from, and I'm 38 to 40 years into the trade. I'm 56 years old, so go figure. This is where I started up. So don't do nothing else. That's the mark for every foot that I've been putting down. That's the mark. That's the mark. Now we have E. Now E, you have to understand where E is going. It's not going to a foot mark. That's why I begin to explain 3, 6, 9, 12. 3, 6, 9, 12. 1/16 is 3 inches. 1/8 of an inch is 2/16, which makes it 6 inches. When you go to the 3/16 mark, and remember I told you, when it's 1/16, 3/16, they're going to always be a 16. Catch that in the previous videos, okay? But that 3/16 mark is going to be your 9-inch mark. It's 9 inches. It's not 3/16. We scaled to a degree of 1/4 of an inch within a foot. So we scaled to 1/4 of an inch and condensed it to where we can get 1 foot out of 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to write that down on a chart so that way you can put it for your notes. This chart is going to be different on the next video because I'm going to actually draw out what I'm teaching you about the 3/16, the 1/8, and the 1/16, the 1/16, the 1/8, and the 3/16 margins are going to be broken down actually on how a scale ruler looks. Okay? E. Show you where E is. So that way you can understand how I marked E. So you can see it in its totality where E come from. That should have been a real marker. Lord have mercy. Mercy me. Oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. Okay. All right. I'm coming to the end of this video, so I'm giving you pertinent information. That way you can know exactly how things are going to look for it. What you're looking for. That right there. So, I'm handicapping you a little bit, but you're not going to always have this. I'm doing it for you, so you actually, if you can't really see, because I don't have the zooming ability right now to zoom in. Okay, so we're at the 1/8 mark past 2 inches. What is 2 inches when it comes to scaling to a 1/4 of an inch for a foot? We're going to tell you 2 inches is 8 feet. 8 feet. Big, long, 8 feet. But we got it. We condensed it down to 2 inches. This is the 1/4 of an inch per foot in this scale. And like I said before, you got 3/8 inch scales, 3/32 scales, 3/16 scale. This is where the basic starts for the carpenter. I'm teaching you where the carpenter is going to read from. Now, I will show you on a detail on some plans where the scale changes. But most of the time, the architect or the draftsman does not scale it. It will say NTS. NT. Oh, that looks so goofy looking, don't it? Looks so goofy looking. That's an N, okay? NTS. Not to scale. And when you see that on the plans, because abbreviations is also where you're going to have to be used to seeing. Not to scale means there is no scale that he is giving you to tell you how he drew that detail, showing you the kitchen cabinets, the bathroom layout. Now there is parts of the bathroom that's going to tell you when it comes to grab bars, handicap bars, how far they come from the wall, away from a wall, how high up they come from the floor, so you're going to have those, but when it comes to that drawing, you're not going to be able to take a scale and try to scale it. No, you got to take it for what it says and what it looks like, and then you have to mimic that in the building process, not to scale. Remember that. Now I'm gonna erase it. Bye. That's why you take notes. You'll have all this on your paper. I can't put it all right here, so I have to erase so I can make room. Okay, E. E is conducive to what? We're going to tell you. We're at the 1/8 of an inch after the 2 inch mark. It will actually be 2 inches and 1/8. Okay, so since it's not 2 inches and 1/8, what is it? It is 8 feet. And what did I tell you that the 1/8 of an inch represented? It is 8 feet. Now, we're getting the slash for the first time. 8 feet, 3/6. 8 foot 6 inches. Wow. Yay. Come to the head of the class. You got it right. Okay? Because you've been paying attention. And I hope I'm a very good instructor kind of breaking things down for you. Because I've been to schools. Things are not broken down to you like this. A lot of the stuff is going to be taught in the field or from a draftsman. You won't get a lot of this until you go to drafting school, showing you how they draw, because most of the time the carpenters is not used to scaling anything. He just reads from the blueprint. When you get more into exercising your dominance on the job and you're breaking the job down to its critical path, then you want to know the in-depthness. You want to dive deep into knowing this kind of lingo, these types of terminology, these types of things in the field, because they're not taught in an average school setting. Okay, and I'm bringing it to you because what I've come across is I come across this in the field, and even those that went to school. I've tested a lot of guys say, oh yeah, I graduated from such, got my two-year AS degree. Then I come to find out that it was a lot left off in the course because they went over the generics. It was a generic course, not knocking no school or anything like that. No, because what the school is, we're going to get you trained and get you out there. You got to learn everything else on your own because they cannot teach you everything like I'm going to in a classroom setting. It would take too long. It would cost too much. You're not going to pay for it. You want to get the knowledge and get on. That's why I say write the notations down. Write the notes down. 8 foot 6. How did we come with the 6 inches? Remember I told you 1/16 is 3 inches within the scale. Your 1/8 of an inch is 6 inches within the scale. That's where we are, the 8 inches within the scale. I hope that you have gained some knowledge here of me breaking it down as we went over 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. There's more yet to come. I'm gonna erase this. I hope you do have it on your board. You know, and I hope that you've learned a lot out of this class. I want to see you in the next class. I want you to be very attentive and very intuitive about really making your hallmark with your own notes. You need to have your notes. I took tons of notes while I seen everybody else in the class just looking around. I don't want you looking around. I need your head on the board, your eyes on your notes, and you writing. That's going to get you over. And you can take the stuff with you. You can take it to where you're taking your kids to baseball practice, football practice, or whatever. And while you're in the stands, while they doing their thing and letting the coaches do their thing with your kid. Yeah, you're watching your kid, but guess what? You got this in your hand. You got a book in your hand talking about roof framing. You have a book in your hand talking about how to lay out a building. Okay, I'm getting ready to get you to that level. And don't you worry. All I need you to do right now is continue to watch me, because I'm flowing and I'm going to flow with you. And you can have access to get in contact with me. And I wish you well. I pray that your family is safe. You'll be able to feed your family. I hope this takes you to another level in building. See you later. Till the next time.